Welcome back to Watching the Throne on the Late Night Chat Network. All right, welcome back, everybody. What's going on, Jay?
Hey, man, what's going on, buddy?
Not much. Welcome to Watching the Throne, the show where we talk about Game of Thrones episode by episode and give you guys our thoughts, overview and review of the each episode. And JT's watching the show for the first time ever. I'm rewatching the show for the first time ever, and sometimes we like to have guests on as well that have joined us, and we have more planned for
The future?
yeah, for the future seasons coming up. We actually will have Christina, who joined us a couple episodes ago. That'll be joining us once again next episode, guys. So make sure to tune in for that. I think she's going to be on for the rest of season 3. So make sure to check those episodes out. Those are really good. It was nice to get like a different perspective on stuff, and another like a super fan in comparison to me and Jay in terms of how many times she's actually seen the show. So,
And also a female's perspective, because honestly, I talk really dirty on here as well, so it's kind of nice to get that so that it doesn't come out during the show.
I don't know if you really held back with her on as a guest though. So still had that, but you did have a female perspective on things as well. Absolutely. So, but yeah, make sure you subscribe, guys. Hit that like button, hit the notification bell to be notified of when these shows do come out. We tend to drop these Thursdays live at 8 for you guys. They air live. If you guys miss it, you can always go back to the playlist and check it out. We're not actually on here live, but it'll air live usually Thursdays at 8.
Yeah, so feel free to make fun of us all you want, and we'll get back to you personally. Don't you worry.
Hit us up in the comments. But yeah, this episode that we're going to be talking about here today, we're on season 3, episode 6, The Climb. Jay, overall thoughts on this one? What'd you think of this episode?
It was interesting. A lot of nice CGI happening.
Yes.
Got a little worried, for a second there,
We're
because
better
people
than it was in season 1. I'll say that much. I don't think you saw any CGI in season 1.
no, these scenes are getting a little crazier, and you're starting to see I don't know. I feel like storylines build between families here or not, and friends becoming full slowly. I don't know. I'm waiting to see where it's taking us, because there's a lot of interesting stuff building here.
Yeah, there's
Friendships, like I said, relationships, and
yeah.
uh,
I quite liked this episode. I think if we had to compare
I almost had a heart attack in this episode, to be honest.
if we had to compare the most recent 2 episodes that we kind of watched and discussed here, this one and I guess the last episode we did, episode 5, is we tend to kind of try to watch these in blocks. So when we pre-record these guys, a little peek behind the curtain. I gotta say this one was probably I liked this one more, I would say, than the last episode
Okay.
that we did. They were both good episodes, but there's a couple of really good scenes, I think, from people that you haven't really gotten good scenes from like this in this episode. I mean, there's a great Baelish scene, I think, in this episode, which he's an evil fuck, like we were starting to learn, but I think that was a really good scene with him, and I even like
There's all kinds of great scenes in this one. It's
yeah,
from the uh, scenes with John and the wildling there. What's her name? I always forget her name. And then there's a little bits and pieces of sneak preview. Maybe you didn't see him last episode, but there's another secret. There's somebody that'll pop in, and you wonder what's happening with him again. And you know, Arya and that guy, they've just been building a different relationship, I think, too. Now that she's out and about again, so we'll see where it's all going to lead up to.
I think in this episode we get to follow up on a couple of people that I don't think we've seen in the last one as well. So that was interesting as well. And then you got your boy there who's been being tortured in this episode, which we'll get into here. Which
Chain to the cross, man.
yeah,
Fucking guy, man.
that's a crazy storyline. Which again, we
I
haven't
want to know where that's going.
really gotten into what's happening there yet. That's what's the most interesting part about that. That's why, I mean, again, me and Christina, last time we had her on, at that point in those episodes when we were talking about it, it looked like this guy was his savior, right? So we were kind
So
of like,
all I'm gonna say is, but all I want to say is on this, okay, dude. All I want to say is, with this situation here, is it's gonna continue to the rest of the season, to the finale, or am I gonna have to wait to another season to find out what the fuck's going on with this guy
oh, I mean, I think you find out what the deal is in this.
coming up?
Whether or not that's the last you're going to see of this guy or this Theon situation, I'll leave for you to find out. But yeah, you'll. I think we find out. I believe, if I remember correctly, you will figure it out. Like, but yeah, but that's what I mean. Again, I think you got to give us a pat on the back here for like holding back on some of these things that we discussed in those episodes together with Christina, because there's a couple of things where they weren't even what they seemed in that episode, and now we're here 2 episodes later. And there's been a lot of recent a lot of developments since then, right? That we were really biting our tongues on, knowing what was going to happen, right? So
Well, they like Leslie said too. I mean, they don't get it. How you liking it so far, right? After I had watched this episode and I had talked to her, and she was like, "Yeah, you like it?" And I went off on her about something, and I was like, "No," and she's like, "See, they don't fucking,
yeah.
they don't
So
care about you."
let's get into it, because like she said, yeah, they're not forgiving this show. They don't care about it. And that well, you have to mention which scene gave you the heart attack here, Jay. So let's get into it. So Sam's now on the run with Gilly there, having a hard time starting a fire, and she helps him. She mentions that she knew he was highborn, because I guess the fact that he doesn't know how to make a fire, she's like, well, you come from some sort of royalty, right? It's that, right?
I
He
can make a fire.
yeah, he then shows her he then shows her his buried treasure discovery of the dragon's glass dagger, which he had found previously in the last season. And he tells her that it will still be a few days travel, and he basically lets her, he tells her some stories about the wall and Castle Black, and he ends up singing to her into the night there, right? Is now they're on the
What
run.
a sweetheart, eh?
So they had a nice little sweet scene there. So it's not gonna be easy for them, right? They're on the run, and he's got a newborn and everything else with them now, right? So
This is interesting.
yeah. So then we catch up with we see Osha here. She argues with Mira Reed, which is that younger girl that came with her
Brother.
yeah. And Brand, tells them not to kind of go at one another, because she doesn't like her. It seems like the feeling's mutual. And Joe
And they're just arguing about who can cook better, the women. I don't know what it is, man. That's all they were arguing about. Who I skin a rabbit better than you can.
right.
I can cook a turkey better than you can. Sorry. Sorry.
No, that's okay. No, and then Jojen Reed struggles in his sleep as the visions take their toll.
Yeah, that tripped me out, that scene, because that he's having a fucking seizure basically right there. Yeah, I wonder these guys that can act them, I mean, I wouldn't even have to act. I mean, I could probably pull it off if they triggered it, right? But I
maybe,
mean,
maybe you can be a stand-in for
does it really look like that? I don't know, bro. I don't know. Next time, if it happens to me, knock on wood, please
uh,
record it so I know.
well,
for,
I
for
just,
acting's sake.
if it was a pre-record, sure, but when you did it live and you kind of had like a little one, I had to remove you, because I don't think it's fair to succumb to viewers. It's not nice.
Well, okay, I'm not talking about here. I say personal when we're out hanging about, bro. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Don't
don't
give
think
me help.
it's
Call 911, then record me.
it's not a great visual. All right. Basically,
It gives me chills down my spine when I see stuff like that on a movie.
is this
It
what
really
bothered
does.
you? Is this what bothered you? This
It
scene?
get,
Is this what bugged you, or
well, this one, yeah, but bugged me because it hits a little close to home when I see stuff like that. I know it's not about no secret powers, and I'm a fucking all of
right?
a sudden I'm a wizard and I can see
Yeah.
where the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, just put a third eye right here, right? But I mean, honestly, it for some reason it's like when addicts say that certain things trigger them, like, or they gives them the EBGBs or whatever. It's kind of the same. I think it's the same sort of feeling that I'm saying, right? It's kind of
Right.
weird.
Yeah, it's close to home. No, I get that.
Yeah.
But Mira runs over to help him. He wakes up and says that he saw Jon Snow on the wrong side of the wall, surrounded by enemies. So that's
Well,
what.
that's where he is. Really, he's actually he is, and he's on the cold part, right?
Right, but these aren't enemies now to him. And again, you have to interpret the visions that they have without having that information, really. So that's why when he says, "Oh yeah, my brother, yeah, that's where he is," and and he's like, "Yeah, but he's on the wrong side of the wall, right?" Like he doesn't understand without the context what's going on in this vision, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
but he's not wrong, and he sees this, right? And then we cut to them, and John's talking to Ygritte about whether or not she's scaled the wall before, because they've gotten to the wall now. It looks like him and the wildlings are about to scale this thing. And
This thing's massive, bro.
yeah, he admits he's scared to do it. And she says Tormund has a bunch of times. She says, yeah, and I don't really have that much experience with it. And then Ygritte ends up talking about how, he was a good bang, and he's embarrassed by it and tells her to quiet down. Right?
I'm gonna tell everybody. Like this guy, she's gonna go brag about him, and he's like, shh,
But then,
Oh.
because she becomes a fucking clinger, like right away. She's like, she basically, she calls her.
There's a lot of those women out there.
Well, yeah, she ends up calling her, his woman, and knows that, he will be loyal to her. Like she's putting these thoughts in his head, essentially. She's like, well, now you've banged me. I'm your woman, and I know you're going to be loyal, so don't worry about it. And
That
John,
tongue is mine.
yeah, essentially. And because because that's just the type of guy you are, like she kind of like knows it already with this guy, right?
Well,
And
because he's so soft and so
but
soft
she
spoken and
warns
nice
them.
guy.
She warns him never
She's a
to
tough
betray her.
redhead.
Yeah, she's like, you better not betray me though, or else I'll cut that pretty cock of yours off, right? She threatens him, right? And I'll wear it around my neck.
My neck, yeah, dude, that was the best. It's like, oh man.
And then Torm gives him some helpful advice about scaling the wall. He says, if you fall, don't scream. Or at least she said that was his advice or whatever, right? So yeah. So then we catch up with Arya here. She's doing arrow
Oh,
target.
she called him a proper lover. Sorry, I forgot because I put that in brackets. She's calling him his proper lover. Hey, look at him. He's a pimp now.
Well, like, I think because the
He
fact
was all sweet. Yeah.
down on her, right? I think was right.
Sorry, it still kills me when we think of it like that.
Listen, he cared for her needs as well, and that's why he's a proper lover. Jon Snow. Apparently, he knows nothing but how to bang a woman now.
Yeah, well,
we'll
find out more later.
Yeah, this guy and what's his name, Tyrion's boy.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. You can't even speak about his, man.
Podrick, yeah. So Arya is doing arrow target practice for her enemies. Basically, practicing for when she encounters these people. She's trying to, she's on her vengeance quest still. And a man says she's good but could be better, and he gives her some tips. She mentions seeing someone out in the woods when a group approaches them, and it turns out to be Lady Melisandre. Now, where he last left Lady Melisandre when she told Stannis that she had business elsewhere and things to take care of in order to make him king, and she had some sort of like a moment, like epiphany, where she's like, oh, I have to do this, or
yeah, I'll be back kind of thing.
Exactly. And he was kind of, again, very controlling and like, where the fuck are you going? Like, you can't leave me, like type. And she's like, no, I got business to attend to. I'll be back. And so we didn't really know where she was off to. So now she appears, with the Brotherhood Without Banners here in the woods. They exchange their Valar Margolises to each other, the Valeris things they say to each other.
High Valerian.
Yeah, exactly. And she knows Thoros and says that he had the task of turning King Robert away from his idols and towards the Lord of the Light. So now an interesting reveal in this episode is that this Lord of the Light is the same people that Lady Melisandre, which I believe that she's mentioned before as well, is the same type of people, like circles that she rolls in. Like, yeah, he's part of where he derives his magic from, essentially, to heal Beric those 6 fucking times, is that he's given his way of life is over. Like, he learned how to do this shit, right? Essentially, like he's basically a devout follower of the Lord of the Light or whatever, right? But And I guess this task was given to him by the high priest. And she asked, like, what happened? Like, how come that didn't happen? He says, listen, I failed. And she's like, no, you didn't fail. You gave up, right? And it seems like in this situation, Thoros is just basically like, yeah, well, listen, I took what I needed from that situation, and I don't need to fucking follow that guy either. Like, essentially, right? Like, he's just like, yeah, I know how to do these things now and tap into these powers, so I don't necessarily have to like,
I can be my own person, really, in a
exactly,
sense.
yeah. And he's like, you worship your way, I'll worship mine. He basically tells her, right? And asked, do you speak proper tongue? My friends don't speak High Valerian, because they're kind of talking like to each other in High Valerian, and they're all standing around his boys there. And he asks what she's doing there, and they proceed to talk normally. And she meets with she meets with Bardic and then Barrick. She sees him there, and she's surprised and asks how many times that has he been brought back, and he says 6. And she's like, that's not possible. Like, right. She's like, and she's somebody who knows this magic, right? And she's like, no, that's not possible. There's no way. And then he's like, you should not have this power. Like, she's like, there's like, how are you tapped into this amount of power to bring this man back 6 times, right?
Yeah.
And he says that he has none. He asks for the Lord's favor, and he delivers every time he does it. And so, like, you were a horrible priest. You drank all the rum and fucked all the whores in King's Landing. She basically just calls him out, like, about again, he just took what he needed from that situation, and he basically says, like, I was bad at it. Like, I'm not, I at this point, I pray to the man, and he gives me what I asked for, like, essentially, right? And that's why he says, like, so he still has like a level of he's like what he says, you worship your way, I'll worship mine. Like, he's still like, he's not a devout, let's say, like a devout like follower, but
he doesn't go to church every day.
Yeah, but he still believes in this shit. Clearly, because he's able, and I guess that's good enough for whoever's granting him this power, right? So, and then he asks, he lost his faith, and he was basically just doing it for show until the mountain killed him, and he was able to bring him back. And she asked him if he's been to the other side. And this is the fucked up part. And he's like, there is no other side. Like, he just like looks blankly at her. He's like, I've been to the darkness.
Just as darkness, yeah.
Which is it's a pretty fucking crazy thing to say, right? Like, I mean, that's how people obviously talk about death. But the fact that they're in a world of magic on this show, and he says there is no afterlife. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's like, I've been brought back 6 fucking times, but I'm telling you, there's nothing waiting for us past this. That was a pretty fucking powerful moment. Like, I think, like, the way he said that, right? I was like, oh man, that was deep. Like, he's just like, yeah, there's nothing.
Yeah,
right?
but that's like could be right now, man. That's the kind of trippy when you think of it, man.
Well, of course, that's why I'd rather move on here. Yeah, but that's why it was a powerful scene. I thought, like, I liked how I liked everything he had to say there about how he's like, I'm gonna do my own thing and fuck him and everything else, and like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have to listen to the priest. And he's a very interesting character, this guy. Like, and this is a great scene. I think that illustrates that. Like, I think this is some of the more interesting stuff that's been happening this season is the Brotherhood Without Banner stuff. It's really interesting at this point.
I'd like to see where it goes too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Arya, she's watching from afar, and she says she doesn't like Melisandre, Gendry, and they that, and him and the other guy's like, yeah, it's because she's a girl. Like, you don't like her because they're all like fawning over her, like, oh, look at this woman, right? And they're like, obviously she's a hottie, and this is fucked up. This moment, though, they then had to proceed to give up Gendry because the Lord of the Light has need of him, and they serve him. But the order comes from Melisandre. Melisandre journeyed out here in order to get a hold of Gendry and bring him back. And I'm sure you could figure out for yourself, Jay, knowing that we know whose blood runs through him, the reason why they want that kid, right? Because they know, like, he's supposed to be the rightful king right now, right? Like, they've mentioned this before, that he was the bastard child that Ned was looking for in the first season, right?
Yeah, Robert's kid, right?
Right. But a bastard child of Roberts, who technically should have the throne. but he had all his bastards out in the world, and then the Lannisters ended up trying to kill all of the bastards that they knew about, and this guy's been on the run, right? And so I think it's interesting that Melisandre wants him, and what makes this boy special that she wanted him is the only thing I could think of is the fact that his blood is actually, you know what I mean, like it belongs to the. But we'll see how that develops. But I think even without knowing what's going to happen next in terms of his character, I think you can make that assumption off of the fact that she seeked him out here, right? I might be wrong. I actually really don't remember what ends up happening. So,
but Arya's like your color. What she something? What'd she say about it? Seeing it something in Arya's eyes, darkness.
Yes. So Arya accuses Thoros there of doing it for gold, which he says they need, and he doesn't really have a choice in the matter. And again, we just talked about this last episode. He's doing these guys. Yeah, you're good guys, but we need to do these things, and these things need to happen, and we need gold. So they after this guy felt he was part of something finally, and he said to Arya he was staying with them, they just sell him up like the next second they have the chance, right? Which is kind of fucked up, I thought. But again, he was ready to sell off
Like slave trading, right back then.
pretty much. So, but again, he's doing it for the gold, and he can't say no to her given the circumstances. But yeah, she says like, you're much more than one of them, like basically to him, like, yeah, like you're important, like you're much more than them, like don't worry. And then she turns to Arya and she says, yeah, I see a darkness in you, and we will meet again though. This is after she calls her a witch, right? She's like, yeah, I see the darkness in you. It's like, and then she predicts that she knows, like it's been foretold to her. Like she's like, we'll meet again, don't worry, right? Like she basically says to her, it's like, yeah, who knows what's going on there, right? I think that's
Well, she said something about the color of the eyes, colors of the eyes of the people that she's gonna have, like Arya's gonna shut forever, which is kind of a trip because now you want to check out everybody's eyes. No, they never said any color,
No.
but it's like
And
I thought that was weird.
yeah, more to come, right? Like I said, this show obviously now, because they're in their third season, it's popular at this point. They're planting seeds along the way of things that might develop even like seasons down the road, Jay. That's what you got to understand. There's going to be, so make note of what's going on. And I think the way that we go through each episode and like kind of go over everything like this, I think some things are going to pay off somewhere down the road, that, or you'll see things slowly develop this way by the fact that we're talking about it, right? Because so they're planting a lot of seeds, I would say, about future things that are going to happen, things that I may have not even noticed the first time around, because again, I didn't really have any idea the first time watching this show, like the context of some of this shit, right? So anyways, so then we see the whole scene with Jon and the wildlings scaling the wall, which is crazy. Jon almost falls off from debris that falls, and then they're just scaling the wall. It's just
checking her ass. That's what he gets, man. He's not paying attention.
Then we see Theon. He gets waken up from his captor there, the guy who's torturing him.
Poor guy.
His savior turns out to be his captor, as we took a weird twist at the end of last episode, or 2 episodes ago when we last seen them.
Yeah.
And he asks him, hey, what body part do you need the least? Says, you've already told me everything about you and the Starks. Basically, you have nothing else to tell me, because he did open up to him when he thought he was actually helping him escape earlier on in that episode, right? And it says that he's gonna start off by cutting off his finger. And then he asks him to guess who he is and why he was torturing him. And if he wins, I cut off your finger.
This is a good game. Yeah, interesting game.
So he guesses that he's a Carhold. To which he says, yeah, he's correct. And he's like really pissed off. He's like, I don't know how you guessed that. How did you figure that out, right? And he guesses who he is. He guesses that he's Torum. Or no, I guess that's where he says he's from, right? Or something
Yeah.
He says he guesses that he's Torum Caster was his brother, and his father was Rickard Caster. And he said he betrayed Rob. He betrayed Rob, which is why he's torturing him.
Is Caster, or wasn't it Karst? What's it?
The Karster? Yeah.
Karstark.
Yeah. No, I think it's Caster.
Yeah, double check. Go on.
And he says he betrayed Rob, which is why he's torturing him. So he guesses all this because he's like, who am I and why am I doing this? And he said he kind of goes along with it and makes it seem like he's getting some of these answers right.
Mhm.
And he said, yeah, no, never mind. Everything I said to you is a is a lie. I just lied about that. Everything I've been telling you is a lie about you being right about all this shit. And then he starts fucking his hand up. Right? Like, so he just continues to torture him. We still have no idea why he's doing this or who this guy is and what the deal is here, but he is taking much pleasure in torturing Theon. I mean, he's not only torturing him in the sense of like actually like inflicting pain on him, but also mentally he's fucking with him because he did that whole situation in that last episode just to fuck with him and make him think that he was going to escape, just to bring him right back to where. So he's really messing with this guy like big time right now, not mentally and physically, right?
Yeah.
Then we see Rob. He meets with the Lord Frey's men, who deliver the message that he expects an apology for going back on his word to marry his daughter. He then says he wants Harrenhal in return and promises to him once the war is over, it is his. Since it is not in the north, he doesn't care. Rob's like, whatever, he's agreeable to it. And he also requires Lord Edmure to marry one of his daughters, Roslyn. And Edmure is kind of going back and forth on this. And he's like, oh, can I see her? Like he doesn't know who he's fucking marrying because he's kind of unsure about this. And they said, well, listen, like we need an answer before we leave in the morning or else our alliance is over in this, right? So just so you know. And
It's not like you can carry a picture around with you, eh? Sure.
yeah, no. He says he says his answer is no, though. He's like, and then Catelyn's father threatens him, his uncle, Rob's uncle.
Rob's uncle, yeah.
He's like, you're risking, our war and lives for a prettier daughter. He's like, the fuck's wrong with you? Who cares? Just agree to marry this man's daughter. And Rob begs him to accept, or they will lose the war. Like he just flat out tells him, he's like, you have to do this for us, or
Paying
else.
for Rob's bullshit.
Yeah, and so then he agrees to marry her. This is just with Rob now. This time he's like, okay, I'll do it. And so yeah, so that happens then. Brienne and Jamie sit with Lord Bolton and eat in this next scene. Brienne explains how she's vowed to help Catelyn Stark with Jamie. She says she should send them back up north. Sorry, he says he should send them back up north, and he agrees to let them go to King's Landing in return for Jamie not telling his father that they had anything to do with his maiming of his hand.
Yeah.
To which Jamie is agreeable. Lord Bolton says Brienne will not be joining him, though, and that she will be charged with treason. He insists, like, that he does go with him, and Bolton refuses. Like, he's like, no, she can come with me. Who cares about her? Like, don't, like, you know what I mean? It's like, no, treason and for your part in this. And obviously Jamie, who's gotten to know her a lot during this journey, has helped her out of a couple of scrapes already, right? So he says no, and Bolton's pretty firm on it. And he says, no, too bad. Like you're allowed to go, but she stays here. She's gonna get charged with treason. So
We'll have to see what happens with that.
Yeah, their whole journey has been pretty interesting too, Jamie and her. I really like that. And it's kind of what made me turn around on Jamie as a character watching the series the first time around. And I still enjoy his scenes in this. I do like Jamie as much as like he's painted out to be such a bad guy at the start of the series. As you get to know him more, I think that you start to see that he actually is more respectable than the other Lannisters that we know in this show in a lot of ways, right? I think, would you agree so far from what you've seen of him? Yeah, he kind of.
Well, he's holding himself pretty good.
Well, I just feel like he has to put on a brave face in a lot of these situations and act like somebody who he's not. I mean, he's very much more vulnerable about shit. Like it seems like now, like he's starting to become less. Because he's seen as such a symbol to people. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, he seems to, because he's the oldest Lannister there, and he's the heir to the throne and this and that. He has held that such a high regard, even though maybe he doesn't feel that way himself.
Yeah, but I just mean from like the way he's treated her, even though she was a captor, by the way that you see him treat Tyrion. Like there's people that he genuinely like cares about and like treats.
And it seems like the ones that he teases.
That's right. Yeah. So Olenna meets with Tywin.
This is another great scene.
This is a good one. So
Two old bags going at it.
I was about to say, two of the more miserable fucks on the show meet with each other in this scene. Olenna meets with Tywin to discuss this whole proposals of marriage that we left the end of the last episode with, right? And discusses his daughter's Cersei marriage proposal to Loras. She doesn't like the sounds of it. He says, yeah, she's rich and beautiful. I don't know why you care about this. Like, what's the problem? She's like, yeah, but she's old. She's like, her birthing years are behind her at this point. Like, and then in response to that, like you said, they're just going back and forth with each other. Tywin calls out his gayness.
Yeah, he says, like, really, what? It's not like he's gonna be having a kid anyways, kind of thing.
Yeah, she's like, she doesn't deny that. She calls him a sword swallower through and through. The way they dance around, like the innuendo, the sexual, like the gay stuff that they do in this show is so funny because it's all these outdated references and terms, like the fact that she called him a sword swallower. Like, where else would you make that reference, right? About someone,
you know what? Whoever wrote the book and whoever wrote the screenplay, what's going on, you gotta give them credit for just adding that as a sentence because they had to think of that.
Yeah, she's like, well, no, I can't deny it. He is a sword swallower through and through. And she calls him, grateful for the offer and accuses him of maybe being. She basically accuses Tywin.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's it, yeah.
And he gets really upset by that because she's like, well, I don't know, you never
been to war.
Yeah, he's like, you never explored men's bodies in your time, like back in the day, like
not even one.
Yeah. And obviously this is the wrong person to do that with. Like, he gets all squirmish, it's hilarious.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder, maybe he did.
Yeah. She's like, we may not be like you in Highgarden, she says, but brothers and sisters, where I'm from, that stain would be very difficult to wash out. Like you said, it's a great scene of them just throwing barbs at one another. They're basically calling out the rumors, which are all true. He's like, yeah, well,
each other's families.
Like, listen, you should be thankful I'm asking my daughter to marry her. She's rich and beautiful. What is your son's gay? And she's like, yeah, well, brothers and sisters having sex with each other is kind of not. He's like, yeah, sure, we're open to sexuality in Highgarden, but he's like, I don't know about that though. That would not fly where I'm.
No. I don't know what you guys do up there in
King's Landing. I don't know.
Yeah, King's Landing.
Basically, he refuses to acknowledge the lie. He says, like, that's why I put in quotations here. And then he threatens her by saying if she refuses, that he will submit his name to the Kingsguard and Loras' name to the Kingsguard, and then therefore he will never be able to marry as a result, because if you're part of the Kingsguard, and it's actually interesting to bring it up because that's why they said that thing about Jaime previously, which I was lost on me when he said, oh yeah, he can't marry, and I was like, that's why, because if you're part of the Kingsguard, you are not allowed to marry, right? So that's because you're serving your king, essentially. Your king is it's like when you're married to God, right? If you're a priest, essentially, right? That's what no, but it's true.
Yeah, I know. And
certain religions, they won't allow you to marry priests, right? So that's why he's married to God. In this sense, he's married to the king, I guess, in that sense, right? So he threatens that he's going to submit Loras' name, and he'll never marry nor have children. The Tyrell name will fade. Like, he basically forces her hand, and she agrees. She's not happy about it, but she's like, well, fuck, I guess I have no choice then, since you're doing this to me. So, like, she's just taking it from, she's just eating shit like all over the place now. Like, Tyrion's making her pay for at the wedding. Like, she holds her, I gotta say, she's a tough old bird, this chick, right? But she's also like, she's getting put in these situations where she's like, I have no fucking choice. Like, right? Like,
she's got a fucked up family of her own, not just the Lannisters.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. But she doesn't back down. I'll give her that. She fucking remind this woman. She's great. Yeah. And so then we're back to scaling the wall. A big piece comes off, knocking them down, leaving them hanging. Egro, is this where you had the heart attack?
Yeah, I thought he was gonna die on me, man, bro. What the fuck? I was
I know
like, no, not this time.
I know people have already told you that he dies, so stay tuned.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was like, is this the scene? No, it can't be.
Egret's rope is cut, and John saves her from falling in this scene because it has
Yeah,
to be
he
cut.
just got laid, and it's like, fuck, man, he dies.
Yeah. Well, he would have
First
gotten laid before he died, right? I mean, if this was a place to go out, it would have been
to the
fucked up.
darkness.
Well, that's what I was about to say. It would have been fucked up because they literally just talked about that this episode, right? So then we catch up here with Sansa. She sits with Sir Loris and talks about the possibility of a wedding. He's clearly disinterested.
What's his first name?
I said Sir Loris. I don't know his first name. Loris. Well, it's Tyrell. Loris. Sir Loris. Loris is his first name.
Yeah.
Sir Loris Tyrell.
Okay, yeah.
So he sits with Sir Loris and talks about the possibility of a wedding, and he's clearly disinterested. He kind of like loses focus. So he's like, "Oh yes, of course." Like Tyrion and Cersei are spying on them from afar during this talk, and they're basically again like stewing in the fact that how pissed off they are that they have to marry these people, and they are not even aware of it. These two are sitting over there having a completely different conversation, and at this point in time, Tywin went and spoke to their grandmother, so it's just like they don't even know what's about to happen, right? And saying what can we do short of having them killed? Like Tyrion says to his sister, yeah, he's like he ponders, who's getting the worst, or the worst,
That was a deal.
yeah, out of all of this, right?
Sansa, probably poor Sansa. I don't know.
So yeah, Tyrion blames Cersei for her part in setting all this in motion, essentially. And she says, she's like, listen, I was trying to protect our family. And Tyrion says, like, he's done the same already. He's like, and I haven't tried to protect our family. He's like, Cersei admits his wildfire move did help them. She actually admits it here in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And he accuses her of trying to kill him, in which she does not deny. She literally just like, yeah, move it on. Like, yeah. I don't know what you're talking about, right? But she doesn't say anything, just silent, right? And asks if his life he says, is my life still in danger? Do I have to be fucking worried? He's okay. You try to take a swipe at me. He's like, is my life still in danger though? Right? He asks her. He's like, from that idiot Joffrey or something, right? It's like, and he says, it's too late. His marriage is already in motion, and to Marjorie, who will deliver the bad news to Sansa. Who will deliver the bad news to Sansa is what they asked. Yeah, so he says, asks if his life is still in danger, and she says it's too late for him because he's already fucking infatuated with Marjorie. And yeah, he asks who's gonna deliver the bad news to Sansa. Sorry, I just read it wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel bad for her. You're right, because like again, no one respects Tyrion really here. So like I think it'd be frowned upon for a woman like her, who's a young girl, to then marry this person who people think's an abomination to nature because he's a little person, right? Which he already has it hard. And I'm not saying that that's how it's perceived on the show, everybody. I'm not saying little.
But he looks good. He'd look good if he was sitting on a throne.
Yeah.
He looked like a badass, so I'd like to see if that happens.
Yeah.
But
so Sansa speaks to Shae, who's doing her handmaiden thing, and this is when Tyrion shows up and he interrupts them to speak with them, and he tells Shae to leave because obviously they have a thing. He doesn't want her to witness this. And she gets offended at this request, and then Sansa's like, no, I trust her. It's okay. She can stay. And he's like, all right, if you're sure. And Tyrion starts off just by saying, well, this is awkward.
this is no shit, bro. Wouldn't it be?
Oh boy, poor guy.
Like,
Poor guy.
yeah.
Oh, poor guy. This whole situation is terrible, right? So
I mean, I guess he's lucky in a way. He's got two. He's got one that he's with, and then he's got one that he's gonna have to marry. So he's got two for the price of one.
He doesn't have eyes for her though. Like he's not.
Oh, I know. He's just doing it because Daddy said so.
So this is a great scene right here. Now another great scene. Varys meets with Baelish as he sits in the throne, staring at the throne chair, doing his thing like he normally does. Right. I love these two. Again, two of the better characters of the show. I really love when they go off of one another. And
which one?
Baelish and Varys.
I know. This is where he's just staring at him. He's just going, look at that throne. but he's looking the other way. He's looking at us now, right now. But yeah.
So then, Varys obviously is very quick to mention. Well, I do apologize. I know you're getting the second choice of your chairs with Lisa Aaron, because that's where he's going, right? When he's going to get married, I know this wasn't your first choice, but you are going to get the chair over there. He basically, says to him, right? And he's like, oh, it's okay, in due time, kind of thing, right? He's just like, because he still is vying for that throne, right?
Yeah.
Baelish, he mentions that he's flattered by Varys being so upset over his recent successes and getting what he wants, right? And Varys says, like, I never wish to thwart you, but yes, there is enjoyment to be had there, for sure, right? He's like, so he says he's like, yeah, well, I also enjoyed thwarting your plan to give Sansa to the Tyrells, and how he caught his confidant in that information. He's like, bad investment on my part, right? That going back to that bad investment thing he said before. He's like, yeah, luckily I have a friend that wanted to try something new and daring. And, Varys, he's like, I only did it for the good of the realm. And so in this scene, Baelish is saying to him that he caught one of his spies, one of his people that's been talking to him about shit going on with Lord Baelish. And up to this point, it was unbeknownst to him as far as we knew. But we saw earlier on that he found out that woman that works for him, that was like the head whore or whatever. I'm sorry to put it that way, but she was kind of like the one that worked her way up from working with him in that way, and was like, his bookkeeper or whatever. She was like doing like administrative work for him or something.
Administrative work for the family.
For Lord Baelish, the redhead. So she's the one that we've already seen in scenes past meet with Varys and kind of let him know, like, listen, he's hitting on Sansa. She's the one that warned him about all that shit, right? So in this moment, he basically says, like, yeah, well, I liked it as much as I thwarted your fucking plan of, when you were trying to get information off of me and spying on me with that chick, right? And Baelish then says, what we tell ourselves without admitting that this is all a lie, because without order, we have chaos.
He's sneaky, that fucking guy, eh?
But what a powerful scene, the way they're filming it, and he's got that fucking grin on his face, and he's like, and it's just like a really good monologue, like a really good lines that he has here as he's going on, and he's trying to remind Varys, he's like, don't fuck with me, like, I caught you in your act, and he's like, because of what you did, this woman is dead now. Like, he basically makes it clear, like, this is your fault. Like, he starts saying the blood's on his hands for what occurred, right? Yeah. And then we cut to him as he's saying all this to him. You cut to a scene of Joffrey basically there with his crossbow, and that he shot at her. Yeah. And as we knew, again,
beautiful scene.
This was set up previously, right? They planted the scenes. No, they planted the scenes about how he had the crossbow and how he wanted to torture people like this. And there was already a moment in time where he tortured prostitutes of the Baelish's, right? But this one, he kind of gave up to him, knowing that this is a fascination of his to bust out the crossbow and kill somebody, right? So he literally gave her up to him, right? As a result of the perception of talking to Varys. So the fact that it was revealed this way, that he's like, I caught you doing this, like, and he's like keeping that in his back pocket. He's like, oh yeah, by the way, like, I also caught you doing this. So like, I killed that woman as a result, right? And
but Thing doesn't know yet until he goes back after. It just shows Joffrey. They could be still in the same room talking to each other by the throne, and Joffrey's over there doing it.
They are. Yeah. It cuts to that. But it's such a powerful moment, because the reason for this episode being called The Climb is what he says here, this quote. He's like, some are given a chance to climb, but they refuse and worship false idols. And as he's saying this, it cuts to Sansa, and you see her fucking crying because of this news that she was just given. Again, this is all going on, the monologue, his like talking while they're cutting to these different scenes, and you're seeing how all these tragic moments happen to these characters in this episode. And obviously, she's not taking the news well about being married to Tyrion, because she's fucking falling, looking out the window, Sansa, right? But that's why they call it The Climb, because he says, like, like, I'm the one who's like making it happen. Like, he's basically making all these moves. Baelish is very high on himself right now, right? Like at the end of this episode, like, right? He's like, some people refuse to like, yeah,
That's the only scene you see him in this whole episode. You haven't seen him in 2 episodes.
yeah,
He's becoming too big.
yeah.
But no, that's and they're sitting there. There's a whole bunch of pictures of the way they're looking at each other, Baelish and Varys. Because as he's saying that, they're killing it. He's basically letting him know something's happening, and you don't even know. And I'm basically telling you right now.
Yeah. Yep.
This is fucked up. They're sleazy little fucks, those two.
Yeah, but again, I think Varys, as he mentions in this speech of his, he says, "I only have the realm."
Seems to be more power.
Baelish is very much in it for himself. Well, Varys does seem to care about the sanctity of the route, like of the King's Landing. Like he does, yes, he will backstab you 5 times, like before you, you know what I mean? Like if you like, right, but he also, his is for the greater good in his mind. Like he's doing it. There's a purpose behind what he does. Baelish is just, it's just greed and power trips. You know what I mean? Like he just wants to do it because he wants to be on the throne, right? Varys doesn't seem like has those same motivations compared to Baelish, right? So
Right,
I think
they like
that's
to
what I
play the
get.
game against each other. I didn't know. I thought the climb had to do with something in the wall.
Well, yeah, it could also be taken because of that, but I think it's because of the quote that he says about people given the chance to climb. But then from here, you do cut to the final scene of them finally scaling the wall, and the Wildlings make it from their climb of the wall just in time for them to see the sunset over the clouds and for Jon and Ygritte to kiss after all they've endured and their near-death experience on this day.
Oh, they were so sweet. Look, there you go, bro. Oh, but let me ask you a question. So, without giving anything away, okay, so somebody had to build that wall
I think it's just an ice wall that's out there. Like
in the middle of nowhere. Like it's straight up like this and straight up like this, and
I
it's just blocking the winds from the north, or what's it doing?
built it to keep the separation of
All the way air.
the White Walkers. Maybe, I don't know. I don't think it's man made.
Because when they look out on the other side, everything looks so nice and
Like
green
the
and
Arctic,
nice.
like you know how there's like the Arctic wall. Like I don't think it's man made. I think it's just
Yeah,
there. Right? Yeah, exactly.
it's crazy. It's just it's a trip because it's like on one side it looks warm and the other side looks fucking cold. I mean, it doesn't look any. It looks like somebody just put a wall to divide the temperature. Maybe that's I don't know, man.
There's honestly, it's interesting you're asking about stuff about the wall because like they don't really take a lot of time past now to even really reference what everything out there in this world, like let's say, and then as the show goes on they start focusing on different things. But I will say this, by the end of the show, there is a I will say a development there about this whole wall business. So I'll leave it at that. You'll have to find out.
Okay, no, because I know how Sam was saying in the beginning that men built it, and when he was talking to the girl, and then it was built for 700 feet and blah blah blah, and
Did he say that they built it?
well, he said something about where did I write it down? I wrote it down. I think in the beginning when he's out with the girl making the fire, right?
Maybe it's man made. I didn't catch that.
700 feet made of ice. I don't know if he said if 100% if it was man made, but I know he said it was 700 feet all made of ice, right?
Yeah.
But I thought men had to build it to. That's what I had thought he had said, but I could be
No, I mean I don't know for a fact, right? Like
Mm.
I don't know for a fact if that's the case or not, but I just assumed it was just a part of the world where they, you know what I mean? But also maybe that it was there because they were afraid that they didn't want those things to scale the wall because it could have been all, and that's why they've been tasked with protecting that wall, right? So maybe
Well, I just see the giants on the other side, so I'm wondering maybe they had to build a wall, or who knows? Like those Igor giants. I was just trying to figure it out. I don't know. Like I'm trying to see this wall there, why it's there.
right.
Right? Like I know it's there to separate two sides of what's going
Well,
on.
there you go. A quick Google search. Here's your answer, Jay. And yeah, you're right. The wall is believed to have been built by Brandon the Builder, who is part of the First Men, and he is thought to be the founder of House Stark. I don't know if this is spoiling anything, but there you go. I don't think maybe it's referenced at some point, but it was built during the long
Just
night
a trip.
when winter lasted an entire generation, which they reference in the
Yeah,
show.
they've referenced about winter lasting a long time. Yeah.
But This was around 8,300 years prior to the events of Game of Thrones. So again, it's one of
House
those
of Dragons time. It's coming. It's might come in House of Dragons.
House of Dragons. That's like no, but see, this is one of those things. No one on the show could definitively tell you that that was man made and built, right? Because
Mm.
it was alive back then, right? It's
Yeah.
like anything else in this world where it's kind of like like
It was written in the book, though, probably.
yeah, exactly. But that's why I think it's important that it says it was believed that this is Prue built the wall, right? But I mean, and I'm sure it was written in a book, and that's how they kept track of things back then. But then there's also, for example, there's also the things with the mystery of the pyramids. We're meant to believe that fucking humans built those, but when you start adding it up, it's just like, yeah, there's no way people
Yeah. How
right?
big were they when they had the lifties? I know there were giants in Malta back in the day, but I don't know.
Again, and we have what was left, like certain things that were left that would indicate that they did, at least that from their bookkeeping in Egypt, whatever they were doing, right? But the hieroglyphics on the
On the walls.
all right. But if you believe in that shit, there's also ones where they looked at them, like the ancient alien shit, where you see things from above coming down and it looks like they're helping build the
That's
pyramid.
what I mean. And it shows giants. I've watched that Ancient Aliens one, and they show giants from Malta, man, building huge caves and fucking things. And I'm thinking, no wonder those guys look like beasts.
So, who knows, Jay? So that's a very good question, though. But there you go. It is believed that somebody did build the wall, it says here. Apparently, it was maybe one of the
Nice.
original Starks. So there you go.
I don't know why it just came to my head. It was just in my head. That's why, because you said to climb, and I'm thinking they climb in the wall, but they also you said that other part there.
I just always assumed that it was like, you know what I mean, like something like in there's ice walls. You know what I mean? It exists. It's not like, you know what I mean, like.
Well, I mean, if you're going to the Arctic, you're gonna see a fucking huge wall up that you gotta, it's the same thing until you get to the other side, right?
I don't know if this is just like some crazy remote area of this world that they live in where that exists, right? And then obviously look at it differently now because there's the world's also all like there's many, like back then they didn't know maybe how big the world was. You know what I mean? Like this is a fiction.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's like the people that think that the world ends, like there's that it's a flat Earth, right?
Flat, yeah.
You just walk off essentially, right? So which they
also
also
be cool.
Yeah.
But they also what?
Well, I was just saying, which I think they also say is like in some crazy like area like this where the world ends. It's like up in like one of these frozen areas where we don't actually venture out into. I think that's where the theories of the flat earthers or whatever. I think that's where they think it is, like the end of the world or whatever, right? So
yeah, at the top and the bottom.
There you go, guys. Another good episode, The Climb, 3 episode 6. And as I mentioned at the start of the episode, we're going to have Christina, our guest from a couple of episodes ago, returning with us starting next episode, episode 7 of season 3. So make sure you guys check that out. It was a lot of fun to have her on last time and get her thoughts on stuff as well. So yeah, that'll be a good one. Look forward to that. And as always, make sure you're subscribed. Check out our other shows here on the Late Night Chat Network. Hit us up in the comments, hit that like button, notification bell to be notified of when these drop. They usually drop Thursdays at 8 p.m. They drop air live weekly. And yeah, I think that's it. That's it. That's it for this one. Follow us on at Late Night Chat Network on Instagram.
All right. So
all right.
What's the next one?
Next episode? I don't know. Why don't you check it? Episode 7.
So I'm checking out right now. Hold on. It's called The Bear and the Maiden Fair.
The Bear and the Maiden Fair. Okay, there you go. So join us next time, guys. Next week for The Bear and the Maiden Fair, episode 7 of season 3 of Game of Thrones. Later, everyone.
Nice. Later, guys.